Hello everybody, I'm Richard Gon of Work to Live podcast version. This time what I do this episode is for people who have sleeping problems or people with sleeping problems or people have problems or troubles in sleeping, which means there are some people who cannot sleep, who can't sleep, of course. So how should I say, there's a disease. I remembered. There's a disease named narcolepsy. So there's a disease named narcolepsy, which is which which induces sleeps, not sleeps but sleeps to the patient of narcolepsy. Anyway, so narcolepsy is a inducer, or narcolepsy is a disease bringing people, or forcing people to lapse into sleeping, or bringing narcolepsy is a disease. Narcolepsy is a disease bringing people to sleep. And the situation I'm talking about is opposite to narcolepsy, or the patients of narcolepsy. Please understand, which is because this is a presumable condition, or presumable condition of this episode. So the condition I'm talking about, or the symptoms I'm talking about, is that is that some patients with sleeping problems cannot sleep in the night or late at night, which is a condition this episode is targeting. Please, which is what I'd like you to understand to start with, or at first. Anyway, so first phase is done, or preliminary phase is done in with this. Anyway, so let me tell you the condition, not the condition, but let me tell you the conclusion of this episode. The conclusion of this episode is: mourning and grieving dead people is boring. For example, Buddhist chant. So, and this is a case to almost every human society. So why I didn't tell you the title of this episode is because So what I'd like you to know is that what I'm going to tell you is a kind of serious topic, because so maybe not maybe, but if you have checked out the title of this episode, you maybe you have filled with, or your mind maybe filled with some disbeliefs or stuff like that. So the title says for people with sleeping problems, listening to funerals is good for them. I'm serious. I'm serious, and this the meaning of this title is serious, and I mean it, because funeral services or funerals is really boring. I think in every society, funerals are really boring in every society, and particularly, especially to the funerals in this country, they are really boring. So I don't know every part, or I don't know every corner of this country, but actually, so I know. So the customs of funerals in the region I live in, but actually, so I live in Japan, and I live in I live in the I live in Tokyo, or the vicinity of Tokyo. Please understand, which is how I'd like you to understand about my residence. Anyway, so I know. For example, better said, if you know where Kanto region is, please understand that I live in Kanto region of Japan. If you know the names of the regions of my country. So anyway, so coming back to the original topic, or coming back to the serious topic of this episode. So to start with, if you have some problems, I recommend you are using the sounds, or the recording of funerals, which is really recommendable if such recordings, or if such audio contents are available for you. So for example, in the case of this country, so this country is one of the East Asian countries, which is why when people die, and when funerals are held in some families. So Buddhist chant is used. So maybe Buddhist. What the hell is Buddhist chant? Which I think is a question you have got, because So maybe most listeners, or the frequent listeners of my podcast, are Western people. Like, so some frequent most frequent listeners live in America, or the United States of America, and as a large number of the frequent listeners live in Western advanced European countries, which is why most of you do not know what Buddhist chant is. And Buddhist chant is, so anyway, Buddhist chant is, that says chant, but actually that is far from singing. That is far from songs sung by, for example, choirs, for example. Please do not imagine songs or stuff like that. So Buddhist chant is a kind of a, I think that is a Buddhist chant is a kind of a messages for dead people, like this dead people was really a good Samaritan, and this dead people was really good. So please be happy in going to after arriving at heaven, or stuff like that. Such a thing was written in Buddhist chant. In Buddhist chant, and I used singular term, but actually, maybe there are some kinds of, or there are some types of Buddhist chants, actually. Maybe I think plural terms should be used for Buddhist chant. Anyway, so in Japanese, Buddhist chant is, this time I checked out how to say Buddhist chant in Japanese language. And to start with, I'm Japanese and my mother tongue is Japanese, which is why I know how to call, or I know how to call. But actually, checking out online sources. So Buddhist chant is translated into Dokyo, or leading chant. Leading chant is it's about meaning Buddhist chant in the case of my mother tongue. Anyway, so leading chant means action. So which is why I'd like to use kyo or okyo for Buddhist chant, and okyo or kyo. I think okyo or kyo are suitable translations for Buddhist chant. So some why I use this example of Buddhist chant is because, so there for example, so there's this Buddhist chant is used as a metaphorical expression, describing the stories of some people, and describing the stories of some people, and so when those stories are really boring, or when those stories are sleep inducers, or when those stories are great hypnotizers, which means, so for example, the, the thing I'd like you to imagine is, for example, I don't know whether your country has this kind of scene, but actually, so for example, if you're when you're a child, or in your childhood, so maybe you have listened to teachers talking, or principals talking in school days, or in your schools when you are children. So please imagine, which is a scene I'd like you to imagine, or which is a scenes I'd like you to imagine. Or if you have some bachelor degrees or master degrees, or if you have some experiences of taking the lectures of universities, or colleges, for example. So I'm sorry for this sound. I don't I yeah, maybe what is coming is it's an ambulance. What is coming is an ambulance. That maybe you are listening to some Japanese languages, and that announce said an ambulance is approaching, or an ambulance is passing through, which is what that announce said, and which is what that announce said accompanying the sound of silence. Anyway, so silence, the time of the silence is over. So coming back to the, I almost forgot what I have talked about. I almost forgot what I was talking about. Anyway, so coming back to the, yeah, the, coming back to the story of example. So if you bachelor degrees or master degrees of or doctoral degrees of universities, or the experience of taking lectures in universities or colleges, if you have such experiences, so please imagine the situations where some tutors or teachers are talking about really boring stuff in lectures or in in classes in universities, in your universities or in your colleges. And many students, to start with, there are few students, or there is no student except for you. So which is the situation, or which is the scenes I'd like you to imagine, which is the type of the scenes I'd like you to imagine. So in which case, so we call such lectures, or we call such stories talked by such we call what such stories, such boring stories are sometimes called okyo, or Buddhist chant, because those lectures are really boring, and those lectures are great hypnotizers, or great sleep inducers for students, because if 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 you if you are not interested in such boring stories, you you can automatically lapse into sleeping conditions, or you can easily sleep by listening to such boring lectures, or by listening to, for example, in the former case where I asked you to imagine teachers or principals talking about really boring stuff, which is a situation I asked you to imagine. And in such a situation, you can easily sleep, because teachers, the stories or the speeches spoken out by principals or teachers are really boring. Or maybe in this case, maybe past tense can be suitable, because maybe you had heard those boring speeches, or those boring stories when you were children. So maybe you could have slept, because those stories had been really, those stories spoken by your teachers or your principals had been really boring, which is why maybe you could have easily slept by listening to their stories. And such stories, if I had been in that situation, I if I had been in such a situation, that I could easily, I can I could easily I could have easily said that those stories were really alike to Buddhist chants, or okyo in Japanese language. So, which is why thinking about such a fact, that those stories, but thinking about such a fact, that so I used Buddhist chant as an example for describing Buddhist chants are really boring, which is why. So if you're coming back to the original topic of this episode, so let me come back to the original episode in this part. So for people with sleeping problems, listening to funerals is good for them. So maybe Western manners of funerals must be boring. I have seen some American TV dramas and some of which had the scenes of funeral services, and those funeral and people looked grieving, and grieving, and some people were crying, and some people were groaning for dead people. But actually, so those scenes were really boring, and those scenes were really quiet. And thinking about, or based on such a fact, based on which, so I recommend you listening to the recording of the funerals or funeral services, which I think is good for, good for helping you sleep if you have some problems with sleeps, or if you can't sleep, if you can't fall into the sleeping conditions smoothly. So which is why I created this episode for which is why I created this episode. So coming back to, I'm going to tell you the title. So for people with sleeping problems, listen to funerals is good for them. And the conclusion is mourning and grieving dead people is boring. For example, Buddhist chant, and this is the case to almost every human society. So I don't know. I don't know. You can get you can get any funeral of any you can get any audio contents recording funerals of any culture. But actually, so if you are interested in Asian culture, so I recommend you listening to Okyo or Buddhist chants of my country, which is what I'd like you to know this time. So that's it. Thank you very much for your listening. See you.